Fascinating. I hope y'all had a great week last week, practicing the keywords, practicing putting them into a paragraph as you told the information back, not just orally by mouth to your parents, but that you started writing them down. I know that's stretching, but trust me, building those muscles is, again, going to build such huge dividends. And don't be afraid to ask your parents for help. If something's, I know your parents are going to want you to stretch and grow, but by all means, ask for help when you need it. All right, here we are, lesson 4, the crow and the peacock. We are going to learn to use 2 new dress-ups, ly words, which are adverbs and quality adjectives. And we're going to practice creating the final clinchers and creating titles in our work as well. So here's a quick review. Can you name the band verbs? They begin with G and W, C and C, S and S, G and G. Can you name any of them? Here they are. Go, went, come, came, say, said, get, got. These are the words that we are no longer going to be using. Instead, we will be using very exciting verbs, like when you want to say go, you may say advance or approach or charge, those kinds of things. Next, review. How do you show that a character is talking? You use quotation marks. For example, here we have quotation marks around this, around this quote. IEW is the best class ever, declared Philip. Notice we have quotes surrounding what he said, and inside the end of the sentence, inside the quote, we have his punctuation mark. It's either going to be a comma, a question mark, or an exclamation mark. Here we have, I know, Miss Sarah is my favorite teacher I have ever had, said Acacia. Again, sorry, it wasn't necessarily said that excitingly because we just have a comma here inside the quotation mark. So remember your quotation marks. Remember, every time you have a new speaker, you begin a new paragraph. That's why this one is indented and this one is indented. All right, we're going to add in ly words. So you've learned to use strong verbs. Today, you will make your verbs even stronger and more interesting by adding ly words to them. So listen to these and decide which is more interesting. We have the cat devoured the mice, or the cat brutally devoured the mice. Which one gives you a more clear picture? With brutally, right? So much more clear. So let's practice that for a minute. We have the crow flew blank over the palace. We could say the crow flew tirelessly over the palace. It ends with ly. We could say the crow flew clumsily over the palace, or the crow flew gleefully over the palace. These are very different messages based on how we're saying the crow flew. Those ly words can be magical. The peacocks blankly strutted in the garden. Let's see what we could add to that. We could say the peacocks nervously strutted in the garden, or the peacocks nobly strutted in the garden. Very, very different pictures here. The peacocks powerfully strutted in the garden, or the peacocks slyly strutted in the garden. Again, these ly words are going to make your verbs so much stronger and so much more interesting. So we're going to be adding ly words to your writing. In your checklist at the end in your assignment, you'll need to make sure you add and underline an ly word to give a verb at least once more strength and making it more interesting in your writing. And quality adjectives. This is the other dress up we're going to use. Now, an adjective describes, as most of y'all probably know, a person, place, or thing. So let's talk about which is more interesting in these sentences. The bad cat chased the nice mice, or the treacherous cat chased the terrified mice. Now, here are band, you're going to find out you've got some, just like you have band verbs, you're now going to have some banned adjectives. Bad and nice are now banned because they don't give enough. They're not interesting enough. Instead, they replaced bad with treacherous, nice with terrified. It tells more about our nouns. The mice thought they had a good idea. Good idea. The mice thought they had a clever idea. Again, simply more interesting. And as I told you, you're going to have some banned adjectives now. So you are no longer allowed to use the words good or bad in your writing, pretty or ugly, nice or mean, or big, a lot. Instead, here's some examples, and I bet you'll agree with me. These simply are more creative adjectives. For good and bad, we have admirable, awesome. Or for bad, we could have cunning, sly, harsh, inferior. For pretty, we could put elegant, glorious, lovely. For ugly, we could put appalling, disgusting, hideous. For nice, we would put agreeable, charming, or kind. For mean, we would put brutal, cruel, or hostile. And for big, we'd say colossal, vast, massive. A lot, we might say countless, endless, several. And in the back of your books, I'll make sure to make a note to your parents, you have whole lists that are easy to follow with these banned adjectives and even the banned verbs at the top and whole options below. All right, so I want you to turn to page 30 in your book, and I'm going to read to you The Crow and the Peacock. Follow along with me. One day, a crow was flying over the king's palace. She looked down into the garden and saw a flock of peacocks with their pretty feathers spread out behind them. "My plain black feathers are so ugly," she said. So she went down and picked up as many stray feathers as she could find and attached them to her tail. Dressed in her borrowed feathers, the crow went into the garden with the peacocks. They saw right away that she was an imposter, not at all like them. "How funny you look," they said. Then they pecked at her until she flew away. Poor crow, but a lesson learned as well. So we're going to start with our first sentence. Go ahead and grab your pencil, pen, or highlighter, and we're going to help select keywords here. And I'm going to read the sentence. I want you to quickly think of what you would think of as being the keywords, and then I'll tell you. Ready? One day, a crow was flying over the king's palace. I'm going to recommend, if you want a recommendation, crow flying king's palace. Go back, sorry. She looked down into the garden and saw a flock of peacocks with their pretty feathers spread out behind them. Pick your keywords you think of. Feel free to pause this video if you need to, if I'm going too fast. Recommended keywords would be looked, garden, peacocks, pretty feathers. Excellent. "My plain black feathers are so ugly," she said. What might be the keywords there? Plain, feathers, ugly. I will tell you that I will not always do this as the class goes on and pick out the keywords. I'm doing this to model it for you and give you some practice with some examples. And say somebody had picked black feathers, ugly, for their keywords. That would be okay. You're not always going to pick the same keywords. This is just to give you an example. Notice there's a new indented line here, and the reason is there's a speaker talking for the first time, and it's a statement, so there's a comma inside the quotation mark. So she went down and picked up as many stray feathers as she could find and attached them to her tail. I'm going to go ahead and give you the key words. Picked up, stray feathers, attached. Dressed in her borrowed feathers, the crow went into the garden with the peacocks. I'd recommend underlining dressed, borrowed feathers, went, garden. Sorry, I'm trying to make sure I give you enough time. Again, feel free to pause the video. Next sentence. They saw right away that she was an imposter, not at all like them. Keywords. Saw right away, imposter. How funny you look, they said. Again, we have quotations. Again, it's indented and it's a statement, so there's a comma inside the quotes. Keywords being funny you look. Then they pecked at her until she flew away. Keywords. Pecked until flew away. So you are going to transpose these keywords into an outline, and I will post a picture of this, or if you want to pause your video and go ahead and copy them over. You'll see things like we picked more than 3 keywords when we underline per sentence, but you'll notice there's always just 3 words and then a symbol or an abbreviation. And I tried to show examples of easy ones like picked up, stray, feathers, attached. Dressed, borrowed, feathers into the garden. They saw right away, imposter. And when there's a quote, I just put quotes around it so we'd know that was something that was quoted. So that'll be part of your assignment, is to go ahead and outline this. And the big picture of what's coming at you for the week is, number 1, you're going to circle banned words in the story on page 30. So you're going to go back and you're going to look at the story, and if you see good or bad or go or went, you're going to circle all the banned verbs or any of your banned adjectives. If you see good or bad, if you see a lot, or just went out of my head what the other adjective was. You're gonna, big, any of those, you're gonna circle them in that paragraph. Then number 2, you're gonna use the worksheet on page 32 in your book for ideas of including dress-ups. And they just give you a great way to break out ideas for quality adjectives and using strong verbs with ly words. So I want you to do page 32 as well. Number 3, you're going to use your keyword outline and brainstorming page to help you write your own version of the fable. Make sure you double space, and make sure before you do that you have looked on page 34 at your checklist so that you know what elements you're looking to include. Number 4, you're going to underline one of each type of dress up, and in the right margin you're going to label the dress ups by using the following abbreviations. If you underline a strong verb, you'll put a V off to the side, and you can see quality adjective and ly accordingly. And you can see page 29 in your book for more on that. Again, remember, use your checklist on page 34 in your book. And I do recommend look at that before you write your paper and rewrite your paragraph. There will be an extra video on making a final clincher and making a title coming your way. So look forward to that. And last but not least, I am cheering y'all on. Have a wonderful week. And don't forget to ask your parents if you do need help, but be willing to stretch those muscles and try your best along the way. Have a wonderful day, y'all. Bye for now.